The rest of the world had women's studies programs starting in '69 at San Diego, and we were very far behind. It was a natural evolution to gather people together, especially when we had a new dean. She knew everyone had a women's studies program, and it just was. It was very clear pretty early on that there were several women who were interested in helping us financially. One was Margaret Taylor Smith, who's endowed the directorship. We quickly saw that we could raise funds for projects, and eventually the fundraising grew to the point that we have endowments, which solidifies this program's foundations in a way that most others don't. And it makes it permanent, and it makes it in male eyes serious. Money is serious to men in a very particular way.
I came to Duke in the year 2000, hired to be the successor to Gino Barr for the program in the midst of its transition from being a non-faculty-based unit, right, to then having its own faculty. So when I came in, women's studies, which is what it was called then as well, right, had been, some people would say that it had been mostly an activist project, and that my job was to create its academic institutionalization. And that's true to in a sense, but I actually, in my scholarship and in my way that I directed the program, I refused to see a split between so-called activism and academic institutionalization, because I believe that the academy is a site of political struggle, and we know that more so now than ever. And so my job was to convince people that we weren't losing activism. First feminist theory workshop was 2007. So it was the last year of my directorship. Had been a little dream for a while. Because one of the things that I felt was that feminist theory had become the centerpiece of the field.
So many of the departments around us had changed their names. And we had resisted doing it a little bit. It was partly to say, if we change the name from Women's Studies, it actually makes it sound as if the project of Women's Studies is over. We succeeded and now we're on to gender. What happens to the fact that Women's Studies always addressed gender? It always addressed sexuality. We must have the category of feminist, because what we're attending to is the body of feminist scholarship.
And the department settled on gender, sexuality, and feminist studies on the basis of the work that people in the department felt they were doing and wanted to be doing. But the story of GSF really emerged from this amazing feminist theory community. And FTW is the largest feminist theory conference in the country, or maybe in the world.
I think in a lot of ways, GSF has a much more coherent intellectual community than many departments, in the sense that there's a core commitment to feminist theory and to critical feminist theory and to constantly renewing that. So I think that the creation of the Black Feminist Theory Summer Institute, for example, is a recognition of that being what right now is the most dynamic field within feminist theory. And so there's a sense that it's always kind of renewing that commitment and bringing in people who strengthen that commitment.
The most pressing threats nationally and here at Duke, well, there's many. So I think there's a current political administration which is opposed to the teaching of gender, the gutting of diversity programs and the like. I think there's the decrease in student interest in the humanities and interpretive social sciences.
We are indeed seeing DEI, gender studies, queer studies, studies on race. These are studies that are being attacked at multiple levels in the terms of the culture wars, but also the government is attacking them. But I do want to make my classroom a space where students who, whether they want to call themselves activists or commit to doing the labor of making the world a better place, can find home and can find plethora of resources to begin to navigate the world in whatever kind of career they find themselves in.
So it's more my goal to be, I want to say sometimes a gadfly, the person who keeps raising the attention of issues. Somewhat of a disruptor, I guess, but really more of a gadfly that keeps saying, these are the problems, what are you going to do about it?
So I think all of those things that are challenges are in some ways also opportunities, right? So I mean, by we, I mean the faculty and the department, have an expertise in a set of questions that are actually central to political life right now. So for example, take a topic like trans athletes, right? Should trans athletes be allowed to participate in, say, women's sports? We have an expertise in that set of questions, and I think increasingly as a faculty, we are trying to put ourselves out there to speak to Duke administration, to speak to media, to remind folks that the study of gender, like the study of any other topic, is an academic study, and that we're actually trained in it and should be consulted on major questions of the day. My goal was for Duke to actually, in the same way that we've been known internationally as a space for feminist theory, to be internationally known as a space training Black feminist theorists. So my sense about the current moment, at least in my perspective as chair, is that we should concede nothing. That we are part of a department that was built on the labor and fundraising of earlier chairs. We've always had a certain amount of autonomy because we have endowments that other departments and programs don't have. And my attitude as chair has been that we should move forward doing the programming that we do, offering the courses that we offer, doing the outreach to students that we have always done.
It seems to me trying to think through how to preserve what has been built is the primary thing. And usually, you know, in feminist projects, you don't think of conservation. You don't think of what is a conservative, a sense of conservation which is conservative. You don't think of that as the political horizon. Right? You know, you usually want to think about tearing things down and making things anew. But I think that under the auspices of what's happening to higher education right now, and certainly the way that anything like gender or on race is considered to be DEI, that conservation and conserving the program is necessary. Did I think that it was going to last 19 years? You don't think that, no. I mean, and is that fabulous? It's fabulous, yeah. And so, I mean, I've asked Jennifer Nash to promise me that we'll have a 20th, and, you know, and in this current environment that it won't end.